have any new members? I think this is a personal moment to thank everyone for what patience and understanding we've seen over the last month. I appreciate everyone that contacted me. I had a family tragedy, and I really appreciate everyone. So thank you. Next is the ethics statement. In accordance with the State Government Ethics Act, it is the duty of every board member to avoid conflicts of interest. Does any board member have any known conflict of interest with respect to any matters coming before the board today? If so, please identify the conflict and refrain from any participation in the particular matter involved. Is there any conflict? There you go. Do we have any further comments?
If there's anyone online who would like to make public comment, please feel free to raise your hand.
Mike raised his hand, but I don't think it's a raise rate. Thank you, Clay. Hearing none, we'll go to the approval of the agenda and consent agenda. Is there any changes, recommendations, or I'll entertain them?
So moved.
Second. I think the first was Dr. Hensley, and the second was just honorable.
Asheville Kimroni.
Aye.
Mountain Archie Portiller.
Aye.
BOT Division 13 Billy Clark.
Aye.
BOT Division 14 Chuck McGrady.
Aye.
Canton Dr. Ralph Hamlet.
Aye.
Flat Rock Emily Whitmire.
Aye.
Haywood County Kevin Inslee.
Aye.
Henderson County Sheila Franklin. Aye. Hendersonville Jennifer Hensley. Aye. Madison County Matt Waxel.
Aye.
Maggie Valley Mike Evelyn.
Aye.
Montreat Tom Whitmer. Rural Transit David White.
Aye.
Biltmore Forest Drew Stevens.
Aye.
Urban Transit Susan Dean. Aye. Waynesville Anthony Sutton.
Aye.
And Weaverville Mark Endries.
Aye.
The ayes have it.
That's it. Oh. Next is, we have a few business items today. The first one is the PA draft local input points for regional impact projects.
Okay. So give me a second to screen.
That was rude. Something to read right from now. No, you're good.
Okay. All right. So PA draft regional impact local input points assignment. Quite the headline. Let's get into it. So just as a little bit of background, this is part of the prioritization process. I.e., this is the key step in North Carolina between long-range plans, the CPP and the MCP, and determining what improvement projects get funded into the TIP and STIP. So there are some sets of funds and some types of projects that don't go through prioritization. To point out, this isn't all of the improvement funding there is. Maintenance, bridge work, safety projects, all of those go through a different cycle, but a lot of the big projects that we talk about, a lot of them go through prioritization. Things like I-26, the widening of 191, Amboy Meadow Road, Rust Avenue, all of those are projects that go through prioritization. Just to note, that is governed by the State's Strategic Highway Investments Act of 2012. The tagline is data-driven and transparent. They love to have it complicated. So that is just the overall process. To get a little bit into the weeds, and all of you, I think, have seen this before, but it's an important thing to note. In the law, all of the state and federal funds that go into this process are split up into 3 different buckets. statewide mobility, regional impact, and division needs. Different project types are eligible for different buckets, and projects compete differently in each one. To note, the statewide mobility here for us, that's primarily our interstate and freeway routes in our region. Also, Asheville Airport is eligible to apply for funds through this, although there are caps on what they can apply for. But projects compete 100% based on data. Local input points do not play a role in terms of what statewide mobility projects are selected. We'll talk about those in a little bit, but the key thing is we're more reviewing statewide mobility. Once those projects get in the process, we find out what happens on the other end, and we can talk about adopting that into the TIP next year. Regional impact is a little bit different. Local input points do play a role, and so that'll be a big part of our discussion today. The other thing to note is the kind of geographies of competition are different. With statewide mobility, projects are competing across the state. So our projects on I-26 and I-40, those projects are competing with others in Raleigh, Winston-Salem, Greensboro, etc. Regional impact is a little bit different. The state splits up the state into 7 different regions. Ours is Region G, which is made up of all of the counties in Divisions 13 and 14. And so in that funding tier is primarily U.S. and NC highways that are competing. We can also talk about cascading statewide mobility projects, although staff does not really recommend going that route. But projects compete in all of these counties. That's important to note because it's not just our projects competing against each other, it's our projects competing against all of the other projects, basically from Murphy to Marion, over that geography. And we won't get too far into it today, but division needs we'll be talking more in the fall. That's for secondary roads, bike ped projects, and transit capital projects. And there's Division 14. And this chart is mostly here for reference. Again, just each funding tier has different eligibilities and different project types. So the main thing we're talking about today are regional impact points. And so just to go over how those work, for projects competing in the regional impact funding tier, 70% of a project score comes from the quantitative score. So things like safety and congestion are scored for these projects, and that makes up 70% of the overall score. The other 30% comes from local input points. Those are points that can be applied by NCDOT divisions, NPOs, and RPOs that essentially can help to boost the project score. So, and to note, with regional impact, it's 70% quantitative, 30% local input. Division needs, when we get to that in the fall, that's 50-50. But just to highlight an example for a regional impact project, if its quantitative score is a 40, and it's an MPO priority, sorry, can we dip the lights? Hopefully that'll help something. That would add 15 points to a project, and if the DOT division agrees, that would add another 15 points, and that would get the project score up to 70. So the local input points, when assigned, help to boost that project score. It also can work in another way, where if there are concerns about a project, we don't have to apply points. For those of you in the room, it changed to a 0. And the total score would be changed to a 55. In my time working on this, if you want a project funded, getting division and MPO support is critical to make a project happen. It's very difficult to get a project funded when both of those things aren't there. And all in all, in this process, the higher the score, the more likely it is to be funded. And that's really what we're talking about here, is what projects do we want to have move forward to get funded. A headline in this round of prioritization is there appears to be funding. I haven't been able to say that in 8 years, and something else. So with regional impact funds, to know we are Region G, so there's estimated to be $122 million available across the entire Region G for projects in this round of prioritization. Divisions 13 and 14, again, we'll talk about those in the fall, 190 million and 257 million. All in all, I'll just say, you know, we've looked at a similar chart every 2 years, and since 2020, it has been almost entirely red. So this chart brings me immense amounts of joy. I hope it does for you. So we actually have something to discuss, and but I will note the STIP unit is going to jump in and take me out if I don't say it. Just to note, all of these estimates are a snapshot in time, subject to change. I'll just say I really enjoy this snapshot. So let's talk about projects. Statewide mobility projects. Again, those were programs, for our program, 100% based on data. That's primarily congestion, safety, economic development, and benefit cost. We had a number of projects that were competing in this round. And one project that will be moving forward into the TIP and STIP is the I-40 Express Lanes project from exit 44 to exit 27. That was the highest scoring project in the region. It was also the highest scoring highway project in the state of North Carolina. So that project is planning to move forward into the STIP, most likely into the developmental portion, I've been told. There's a good chance this project will have to recompete to get all the funding that it needs. But if it's in the developmental portion, then there's a good chance that some engineering activities can begin. Steve, stop me if I'm saying anything, getting too far ahead of myself. But a number of other projects did not make the cut. I'll just note that the widening of 26 south of Four Seasons Boulevard is the next highest scoring project in the region, but didn't quite make the cut. Section C of the I-26 connector is just after that, and the Four Seasons Boulevard interchange at I-26, which was broken out from the I-26 widening project a few years ago. Those are kind of all next in line. But there are a number of projects. I won't go through each one. But to note, there's one moving forward. So to get into, well, I'll stop there. I've talked a bunch. Any questions or comments at this point?
I would just note that this is not anywhere near final. Which you've already said.
This is a snapshot.
Yes.
Let him have his joy.
Well, we don't have a lot to celebrate. We do have some celebration.
But I appreciate the caveat. Throw in some caveats, DOT. Okay, now moving into regional impact projects. These are just the quantitative scores, these are ranked or going from the highest scoring projects down to the lowest in our region. Again, I won't go through every single one. I'll just point out a few of interest. The highest scoring regional impact project in MPO and Region G is the Asheville to Salisbury passenger rail project. That scores a 59. It is quite a bit ahead above some of the other projects. I do want to make, I'll throw in some caveats here. The passenger rail project has a lot more complications when it comes to local input points than any other project on this list. In large part because this project isn't just within the MPO. So we can only assign a partial number of points to the project. We are reliant on our other partners also prioritizing this project. And so on the planning side, that includes Foothills RPO, Greater Hickory MPO, the Charlotte MPO, and Cabarrus Rowan MPO. Not to mention, I believe it's Division 13, 12, and 11. And so to get the full number of local input points, all of those organizations need to prioritize the project. So to note there. Beyond that, North Carolina has a cap on non-highway projects in all of its funding as well as just regional impact. To note, a project that scores slightly higher as of right now is the Wilmington passenger rail project. So this project has it scores very, very well. It has some hurdles it's got to overcome to really get to the next step. I don't know if those are caveats or
Reality check.
there we go.
There is silver lining for us is that Wilmington have to go through the same because it crosses multiple systems.
Exactly. Yeah. So that is the highest scoring project in Region G. After that is Asheville Highway project in Hendersonville that improves or is looking to improve 3 intersections between North Main Street and MC 191. And following that is US 70 Tunnel Road proposed road diet that came out of the corridor study between Beaucatcher Tunnel and South Tunnel Road. I'll just note there, the cost is something we've discussed a little bit. Is much higher than a typical road diet, in part because there's a few intersections that would have to be redone in order to accommodate a road diet. That is something that we're hoping to get an express design going on and hopefully get some more precise numbers. After that, Patton Avenue, multiple intersections between New Leicester and North Louisiana. New Leicester Highway, multiple intersections between Newfound and Gouges Branch Road, just up the road here. Just to note, we did get public comment on that, with people asking to improve the intersections for safety, and the Brevard Road, Glen Bridge Road intersection project as well.
That's the new section, right? That was just built, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
So yes, that's worth noting. We've had some preliminary conversations with NCDOT on that. All of the intersections that are identified on that stretch are identified in our safety plan as areas of high serious injuries. And in talking with DOT, they've also identified that there are some improvements to the intersections that could be made to make them safer. So I'll stop reading every single one, but I will point out, going down the list, a few that were previously funded. Sweeten Creek Road between Hendersonville Road and Mills Gap. A little bit down the list, as well as the other section of Sweeten Creek just shortly after that. The NC 280 Boylston Highway Access Management Project that used to be funded. The Sardis Sand Hill Road project that was funded until recently. Rush Avenue, that's north of the current Rush Avenue project, and the South Main Street project in Waynesville. And also coming in towards the bottom of the list is the Swananoa River Road modernization or widening project that used to be funded as well. Are there any questions at this point? One more check-in. Okay. Again, another point to make is those are our projects, but there are projects from other organizations that are competing for these funds as well. So we do have 3 projects that are in the top 3, including passenger rail, Asheville Highway, and Tunnel Road. But again, to note, there's other MPOs and RPOs competing for these funds, so just to highlight some of the top scoring projects there. So getting into local input points. The MPO does have a methodology of how we prioritize projects. This is how we break up the different things that we evaluate. I will note we do have 1,900 local input points to program if we so wish. I think we routinely make jokes with our peers about, it's a lot of points and whether or not if those points are even worth a beer these days. But with our methodology, it is very data heavy. And we do score projects based on a number of criteria that kind of mirrors our 25-year plan. And we do bring in considerations that aren't in the prioritization process, including resilience, environmental impact, multimodal safety, and planning considerations. And we also have a component of making this fiscally constrained. We've started doing that a number of years ago. And we can get into that some more. Councilmember Roney, you have your hand raised?
I do. I think there's some curiosity around the point system for Swananoa River Road, around like if there are recent fatalities, how does that impact the safety score?
Sure. So the safety score is based on a 5-year crash history. And so I believe for this round it is 2019 through 23. Thanks. That's not from Steve. That's comforting. And so it takes the crash history from that 5-year period and looks at the total number of crashes as well as the number of severe crashes. And creates a score based on how that amount of crashes compares with other facilities that are competing for funds.
Okay, and so then the safety score is almost a quarter of the total score.
For the MPO's methodology, yes.
Okay.
We have safety as that is to note. There's the prioritization methodology that comes up with the quantitative score, and there's the MPO score that makes recommendations on what projects to put local input points on.
Thank you.
I'll just note this because I've gotten a couple of questions on it. People have asked, why is resilience so low in the methodology? And I'll just try to summarize my spiel. The big problem is in transportation, we don't have a lot of good data to apply. Right now, the data is essentially, does the project overlap an area of resilience concern? But we don't have data on whether or not it will do anything about the resilience concern to address it and make it better. We don't really have good data on whether or not that resilience threat is a big problem for the asset, i.e. it might take out the road entirely, or it might just cause a little bit of temporary damage. So that's a big big part of why it is where it is right now. We are hoping to get improvement in the future. So we have two alternatives on assigning draft local input points. The first alternative is to strictly follow the MPO's methodology, which is, I would note the big thing there is that it's fiscally constrained. And so as part of our methodology, it says to put points on up to 150% of available funding or a minimum of 2 highway and 1 non-highway project. Based on our methodology, we put points on 3 projects: the passenger rail project, the Smoky Park Highway Access Management Project, and the Tunnel Road Diet. Alternative 2 is what the MPO TCC recommended. That is putting points on all the projects that were assigned as a local priority in our local meetings. So that would be the passenger rail project, Smoky Park Highway Access Management, Tunnel Road Diet, Spartanburg Highway Access Management, Sweeten Creek Road widening, Asheville Highway multiple intersection improvements, New Leicester Highway multiple intersection improvements, Delwood Road Access Management, Brevard Road multiple intersection improvements, South Main Street widening in Waynesville, and the 213 modernization project in Mars Hill and going out of Mars Hill. The TCC did recommend going with alternative 2 for this round. A big part of the reasoning there is that 3 projects really is not sufficient, I think, to reflect the region's priorities. You know, the fiscal constraint was put in there when we were dealing with hundreds of millions of dollars, not so much a lesser amount. That was the recommendation, and just to note, we would be putting full points, or the maximum number of points that we could on all of these projects. But that would basically, you know, help those projects that are listed get those additional 15 points, with the exception of the passenger rail, which would get a partial amount of that. Are there any questions, comments? We are looking for a recommendation, and that would go out for public comment over July and come back for finalization to the TCC and board in August. So this is just a draft, a sign.
Can you explain how the access management project in Henderson County had a higher MPO score? This is local priorities, right? And I think just trying to figure out, as opposed to the 25 North Main project.
Sure. Honestly, it's very close, but one of the things is the resilience issues around Mud Creek actually gave an additional couple of points to the Spartanburg Highway project.
Okay.
If you need a recommendation, I'll make the recommendation that we go forward with this one.
We do, but is there any other discussion? So I believe we have a motion for the second alternative. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. So the roll call. That discussion went much quicker than I thought it would.
Asheville, Kim Roney.
Aye.
Yes.
Black Mountain, Archie Portiller.
Aye.
DOT Division 13, Billy Clark.
Aye.
BOT Division 14, Chuck McGrady.
Aye.
Buncombe County, Drew Ball.
Aye.
Canton, Dr. Ralph Hamlet.
Aye.
Flat Rock, Emily Whitmire. Haywood County, Kevin Inslee.
Aye.
Henderson County, Jay Eagle.
Aye.
Henderson County, Sheila Franklin.
Aye.
Hendersonville, Jennifer Hensley.
Aye.
Madison County, Matt Wexel.
Aye.
Maggie Valley, Mike Eveland.
Aye.
Montree, Tom Widmer.
Aye.
Rural Transit, David White.
Aye.
Fillmore Forest, Drew Stevens.
Aye.
Urban Transit, Susan Bean. Aye. Waynesville, Anthony Sutton.
Aye.
And Weaverville, Mark Endry.
Aye.
The ayes have it.
Next order of business is HL 0013, request for additional funds.
Chairman Sutton, may I add something about local input points, please?
Absolutely.
From the division standpoint. As Tristan showed in his pie chart, 15% of the local input points come from the MPO, 15% come from the division. And I'm speaking for Division 14, but some of my comments actually apply to Division 13 as well. We have our own methodology, and we have 1,800 points to assign. And for Division 14, that's the 10 westernmost counties. So we can't cover all projects that are priorities from the MPO. And our methodology, we assign 100 points to the top ranking project in all 10 counties. The next 700 points, we just take, once we remove those projects, just go down the list of the highest scores and assign points to those. And then we have 100 points that we assign to Appalachian Development Project. So if you see that the division did not assign points to your project, it doesn't mean that we don't support the project. We just simply ran out of points. So everybody just be aware of that.
You use some of the points.
I told Steve I'd be happy to have you trying to get some more points there.
That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. So that will tell you that some of these will not. Yeah, ECBO.
Just the ones that we coordinate with and apply. Steve is also, I'll give it up for Steve's beard. Looking great today.
Wow, thank you. I was thinking that. I'm jealous. So HL 0013.
Okay, so HL 13, that is a locally administered project. Just a quick bit of information. Those are projects that are generally administered or sponsored by local government. They are funded in large part either through a small set aside of prioritization funds or through federal funds that are directly allotted to the MPO and programmed to these local projects. The MPO does receive $6.5 million a year, roughly, in federal funds from various programs. Just to touch on these really quick, that includes the Surface Transportation Block Grant, which is the most flexible of the funds that we receive. We can put those towards highway projects, bike ped, transit capital, there's a lot. That is also the largest amount of direct allotment that we receive. It's a little bit less than $5.5 million. That's, just to note, is still in the bill, the next federal transportation bill. Transportation Alternatives Program, that's more focused towards bike ped and alternative modes. We receive about $500,000 a year in those funds. Those are also in the federal transportation bill. In the carbon reduction program, we receive around $500,000. That is expected to be cut in the next federal transportation bill. Those are funds that are more focused towards alternative modes as well as electric vehicle infrastructure. So those are the funds that we're really talking about. Are the federal funds from those programs that come to the MPO, and we determine where those go. So to note, we haven't had a call for projects since 2022, when we programmed out 5 years worth of funds, we have not had a call for projects since then. However, we have had projects go up in cost. Tell me if you haven't heard that. One of those is HL 13. That project is the replacement of the 9th Street Bridge in Black Mountain. That was applied for through the MPO in 2020 after a bridge inspection conducted by the town found that the bridge needed to be replaced in the near future. The MPO awarded $800,000 at that time, and the request is to bring the total federal award to $1,566,110. That all, just just to note that's the federal amount. With all of these funds, there's a 20% local match. In coordinating with the town, they would anticipate having that local match available to the program. Also, importantly with this project went out to bid. It went through the design process. It went out to get a contractor, and the contractors came back with prices higher than what was programmed. And so this request is to move things forward with what would be the preliminary bid that would be awarded to move this project forward. NCDOT does have limitations on how long projects can remain open with the bids that we've received. I believe it's 60 days. I'm just looking at Steve to make sure I'm there we go. Thank you, Steve. So we are looking to award additional funds to get this project to the finish line. That is one thing we've talked about a little bit is we do have a bit of a list of projects, and getting them to the finish line is something that is good. We know in order to get this project done, additional funds need to be programmed. To note, we've been coordinating with DOT on what this would mean for a future call for projects. So through 2030, we're projected to have a little more than $17 million available. If the additional funding request were to be awarded, that would bring our balance to a little more than $16.7 million that could be used for a future call for projects. We are looking for approval from the MPO board, and that was recommended by the TCC and the prioritization subcommittee.
I'm just curious, did they cite a reason for why the project more than doubled?
I'm not aware of a specific reason other than costs going up and getting the bids that they did.
I'm guessing with all the work going on.
Doug?
I know here locally we have seen an increase in bid calls post-Helene. Also, obviously, since 2020, just with the various things with the economy, we've seen definite increases there. You couple those two together, and it's substantial.
It's all the above.
See.
Do we see the same contractors over and over bidding these projects? Are there different organizations that enter into these RFQs at all?
We have, in this region, we do see similar contractors bidding. It does vary somewhat, but there are essentially a finite number of contractors who do this type of work that are willing to come into a region to do so. And right now we do have a tremendous amount of bridge work in the area. We have seen additional contractors come in that previously were not typical to the area. So we are seeing more folks come in, hopefully beginning to create maybe a more competitive bidding atmosphere, but we do have definitely a finite number of contractors.
So basically, it's because Division 14 decided to replace every bridge in Haywood County at the same time.
I would be glad to blame it on Division 14.
It's Division 14's fault.
Is there a way to encourage
more bidders?
Yes.
We do have processes in place across the state to reach out to contractors who are not currently bidders for the DOT to help them, ones who are interested, to become qualified bidders. We do some programs multiple times a year as an outreach to contractors and also to smaller contractors to try to link them with larger contractors to sort of open that market up and to help especially those smaller contractors become pre-qualified and start bidding with the department on things that they'd be qualified for.
Can we offer financial incentives to encourage more of that?
That's a question I don't have an answer to. I would have to legislate.
Yeah, I mean, if you offer financial incentives, 10%, which prohibits a 200% change in a contract, maybe it might be worth considering.
I just want to make a comment. I'm not really cutting anybody down, but they gave us a tour, or me and some other folks, a tour of the Waterville Dam down at we just had Wesley here, and he showed us what was going down on I-40, but at the Waterville Dam, I don't know if y'all know this, but from the dam to the power plant, there is a tunnel that goes through the mountain, and it's 7 miles long. And that tunnel is 14 feet wide at the base, and then the way I took it is it's kind of like a Quonset hut. It's just a big arch. It's 7 foot, so you can imagine. So that's the opening. So they built the dam and the power plant and that tunnel, and this is through solid rock, okay? And this is in 1926. In 19 months, they built that. So it's like, how could they do that with the equipment they had, you can imagine, versus the equipment we have today? So anyway, we were just talking about how long it takes construction projects to go, and I guess a lot of it is this regulations on safety and all that probably, but it's just amazing of what they could do back then in a short amount of time, and it takes us a lot longer to do it today. And that's just, I just want to throw that out there. It's just amazing. Yeah, I don't know what it costs, but and that dam that they built at Waterville, it's kind of a U-shaped, if you will. And they said the more pressure you put on it, the stronger it gets. I don't understand that engineering, but it's really a marvel of what those guys did back then. And then today, I can't wait until, I just want to make this comment, I can't wait until 2029 gets here, or 2030, because I think all the stuff in Haywood County will pretty much be done. So I'm looking forward to that time.
Hopefully, then we'll be starting off like the other.
Why didn't I 40
That's a great point. I will say that's something being talked about nationally, is just, what is it that is slowing down a lot of projects? I think there's a lot of discussion about permitting reform and trying to move that forward so that projects can go through and get the necessary permits more quickly, and changes to environmental documentation. But I think overall, one thing that I think has become especially pertinent after 2020 is just industrial capacity and labor capacity. Steel, asphalt, those things have gone up enormously, and as well as labor costs. We're seeing those kind of national trends playing out in a lot of our projects.
It's just, this board is, it's just really frustrating that projects can't get, it's almost like we look at things and they have numbers on them, and then it's like they all totally change or double or whatever, because it takes so long to get these built. If we could build these roads, say 15 years ago, you can imagine the cost savings and everything, but it's just, anyway, I guess it's a observation.
Urgent 6 years ago. This is the benefit perspective, and we're now just getting everything in line to be able to complete the project. So in my mind, it's very important that we improve this so that they can move forward, or it's going to be stepped back again. That was some of the reasoning from the prior edition. So, we are so close to getting this project done.
Good.
It's necessary. So it's a great point. It does kind of flummox me that, our top scoring Region G project is one that got completed in the 19th century. There's that, but I'll also note with this specific funding, there also is a work group at NCDOT about local projects and some of the issues they have to deal with, whether that's local capacities to administer federal funds, because it doesn't make sense for every small town to have a project manager experienced with federal funds, but also the oversight that comes with that. NCDOT is required to oversee every project that uses federal funds, but something we've talked about is more oversight comes with more time for people to review things and longer processes. And you know, how we can talk about streamlining some of that, especially when there are experienced project managers in place. Honestly, I think there's people who are tired of hearing me talk about it, but getting projects done faster, I do think is an important thing.
So the projects should get closer to what we estimated to be, or we're doing a really bad job of estimating.
Right, I mean, there's that too, yeah.
And just to confirm on this one, Black Mountain is okay with the increase on their end and their local match as well?
Correct. It's almost like, well, it is over a quarter. It's $255,527 more. And then, any other discussions before we? So I'll ask for a motion to approve.
So moved.
One second.
Asheville, Kimroni.
Aye.
Black Mountain, Archie Fertiller. BOT Division 14, Chuck McGrady.
Aye.
Buncombe County, Drew Ball.
Aye.
Canton, Dr. Ralph Hamlet. Flat Rock, Emily Whitmire.
Aye.
Haywood County, Kevin Inslee.
Aye.
Henderson County, Jay Eagle.
Aye.
Henderson County, Sheila Franklin.
Aye.
Hendersonville, Jennifer Hensley. Aye. Madison County, Matt Wexel.
Aye.
Maggie Valley, Mike Evelyn.
Aye.
Laundry, Tom Widmer.
Aye.
Biltmore Forest, Drew Stevens.
Aye.
Urban Transit, Susan Bean. Aye. Waynesville, Anthony Sutton.
Aye.
Weaverville, Mark Endries.
Aye.
And Archie, you were saying something?
Yes, I'm back. Aye.
The ayes have it.
This is Rural Transit, David White. I also, thanks.
Thank you. And Groundhog Day, let's cover U 5019.
Yes. U 5019A, same story. This is a project, this is another locally administered project whose costs are increasing. This project is in the city of Asheville, who is sponsoring and managing it. It is the Nancy Branch Greenway, formerly known as the Town Branch Greenway. This project was funded in 2018. It was initially part of the City of Asheville's River Arts District Transportation Improvement Project. When costs went over budget on that project, it was taken out of that. That came from a different federal award, and it applied to the MPO for funds and was awarded in 2018. Our previous award is $3,412,000 in federal funds. The request is to increase that to $4,253,000. And so but to note, the status is a little bit different. This is at 90% design and is preparing to let. There was a little bit of discussion at the TCC about whether to award additional funds now or wait until later. I think to summarize that discussion is that in general, there's, even if we wait until the project goes to bid, that still is not likely to be the last time we have to talk about funding for the project. There are projects where we've put funds on as they've been closing. But for this project, we know, based on updated estimates at 90% design, that additional funds are going to be needed to award the project. To note with that, again, looking at the impact MPO funds, that with the Black Mountain project, that would reduce our balance through 2030 to $15.8 million, roughly, almost 15.9. But but we are looking to award additional funds, and the TCC and Prioritization Subcommittee did recommend awarding the additional funds at this time.
I'll make a motion to do just that, to accept the TCC recommendation for modification for additional federal funds for U 5019A.
I'll make the second.
Asheville, Kimroni.
Aye.
Black Mountain, Archie Portiller.
Aye.
BOT Division 14, Chuck McGrady.
Aye.
Buncombe County, Drew Ball.
Aye.
Canton, Dr. Ralph Hamlet.
Aye.
Flat Rock, Emily Whitmire. Haywood County, Kevin Inslee.
Aye.
Henderson County, Jay Eagle.
Aye.
Henderson County, Sheila Franklin. Aye. Hendersonville, Jennifer Hensley. Aye. Madison County, Matt Wexel.
Aye.
Maggie Valley, Mike Eveland.
Aye.
Montree, Tom Whitmer.
Aye.
World Transit, David White.
Aye.
Fillmore Forest, Drew Stevens.
Aye.
Urban Transit, Susan Dean. Aye. Waynesville, Anthony Sutton.
Aye.
And Weaverville, Mark Hendry.
Aye.
The ayes have it.
Next, business, a resolution of support for Old Brickyard Road intersection improvements.
All right, let me share my screen here. So, Old Brickyard Road between US 25 Hendersonville Road and Old Hendersonville Road. It's what we're proposing. This is a division managed and or division designed, division led project, small project for intersections at either end of Old Brickyard Road. And this is, even though this does have safety components of this project, it's really more about traffic flow and moving freight traffic through, trucks through. On the US 25 end, right now there's just 2 lanes there where and we're increasing the turn radius if you're turning onto Old Brickyard Road with a lane there, and then also giving a left turn lane and a right turn lane onto US 25 Hendersonville Road. This is kind of hard to see on the screen, but it's just showing the truck turning movements, how they can turn onto Old Brickyard Road. You can kind of see in that picture at the curve where they've been running off the road to make that turn. Again, just more turning movements. And also turning movement if you're going to turn left or right, if a truck's going to turn left or right onto 25. On the other end, which is where Old Hendersonville Road comes in, kind of the same thing. We're improving traffic flow onto Old Brickyard Road and off of Old Brickyard Road. You can see this a little bit better if I can get that. So we're proposing if you're going south on Old Hendersonville Road, a left turn lane there, and also if you're going north on Old Hendersonville Road, a left turn onto Old Brickyard Road. Now it's just 2 lanes in each direction. So quick and easy presentation. We are looking for a resolution of support, which is required before we can proceed with these projects. Any questions?
I move the resolution that's in our packet regarding this Old Henderson Road, Brickyard Road project.
First by Gray.
Second.
Asheville, Kimroni.
Aye.
Black Mountain, Archie Portiller.
Aye.
BOC Division 14, Chuck McGrady.
Aye.
Buncombe County, Drew Ball.
Aye.
Canton, Dr. Ralph Hamlet.
Aye.
Flat Rock, Emily Whitmire. Haywood County, Kevin Inslee.
Aye.
Henderson County, Jay Eagle.
Aye.
Henderson County, Sheila Franklin. Aye. Hendersonville, Jennifer Hensley. Aye. Madison County, Matt Wexel.
Aye.
Maggie Valley, Mike Eveland.
Aye.
On Treat, Tom Woodmer.
Aye.
Low Transit, David White.
Aye.
Biltmore Forest, Drew Stevens.
Aye.
Urban Transit, Susan Bean. Aye. Waynesville, Anthony Sutton.
Aye.
And Weaverville, Mark Entries.
Aye.
The ayes have it.
Perfect. We'll move to our last business item, which is the Advanced Air Mobility, or AAM grant package.
Before anything else, Stacy, just to note, this is something the aviation division actually came to us with this opportunity and noted it would be something of interest to our region.
Just a second to get my screen set up. All right, to start, what is advanced air mobility? It's a new mode of air travel that enables safe, sustainable, affordable, and accessible aviation services through the integration of advanced technologies. It's not a replacement for any mode of transportation, but a newish addition to the multimodal network. AAM involves emerging aviation technologies. It moves people and goods in new ways, supports new forms of data collection, such as utility surveys or post-disaster reconnaissance. It supports underserved or hard-to-reach areas. It includes passenger transport, freight, emergency response, and inspections. And AAM is a new and emerging layer of the multimodal transportation system. AAM aircraft differ in how they take off and land. Most current models are electric, and with some using hybrid electric systems or alternative fuels. AAM is cheaper, quieter, and more accessible using aviation technology to solve more problems. It involves the use of unscrewed aerial vehicles, or UAVs, or drones, electric vertical takeoff and landing vehicles, electric conventional takeoff and landing vehicles, and electric short takeoff and landing vehicles. AAM includes urban air mobility, which is the transportation of passengers and cargo within cities using electrical vertical takeoff and landing aircraft to bypass traffic congestion and improve access. It includes regional air mobility, which connects suburbs, small towns, rural areas, and remote communities, including those separated by water, terrain, to larger transportation hubs. It involves unscrewed aerial systems. It includes remotely piloted or autonomous aircraft, such as small drones, electric conventional takeoff and landing vehicles, and electric vertical takeoff and landing vehicles. And these systems support cargo delivery, public services, and data collection. And it also involves a network of infrastructure, and this can begin with utilizing underutilized existing infrastructure, which includes, but not limited to, small airports or heliports. And then as operations scale, new infrastructure may be needed and added, including vertiports for vertical takeoff and landing aircraft, charging stations for electric aircraft, maintenance hubs for servicing and operations, and digital infrastructure such as unscrewed aircraft system traffic management to support automated flight coordination. So why it matters. North Carolina is continuing to grow and transportation demand is increasing. AAM supports connectivity and economic development. It enhances resilience during emergencies and disasters, and it complements existing roadway, transit, rail, and airport systems. And AAM is an emerging technology that will continue to have more relevance throughout our region and throughout the state. The AAM Planning Grant Program, which we're proposing to apply for, is administered by the NCDOT Division of Aviation. It's approximately $1 million available annually, with this year's cycle being $950,000. Eligible applicants include MPOs, municipalities, and regional organizations, and the program supports planning activities rather than construction. What the grant can fund, it can fund transportation needs assessments, vertiport and infrastructure siting analyses, multimodal integration planning, feasibility studies and policy analysis, public engagement and outreach efforts. Overall, the grant fund preparation for the integration of AAM into the multimodal network, along with planning for infrastructure and social capital needed for its implementation. The benefits of AAM planning include strategic alignment. AAM planning helps communities define their vision and goals, ensuring alignment with broader mobility priorities and readiness for future funding and implementation. Stakeholder alignment. AAM planning fosters collaboration among agencies, industry, research institution, and other partners, building a shared foundation for innovation and investment. Community responsiveness. Public engagement ensures AAM solutions reflect local needs and values, building trust and support for new mobility options. Economic development potential. AAM planning helps regions attract investment, grow the workforce, and unlock new opportunities in aviation, logistics, and related sectors. And implementation readiness. Early planning helps communities identify infrastructure, regulatory, and funding needs, laying the groundwork for future deployment and integration into multimodal networks. And it also enhances regional competitiveness as more communities seek to bring AAM capabilities online. So why it matters to the FBRMPO in particular. Mountain terrain creates mobility challenges. Flooding and landslides can isolate communities. Tourism and regional travel demand continues to grow. AAM could improve regional accessibility and resilience. And planning now for AAM allows for inclusion in MPO and other MPO work products such as the MTP. And applying for the grant now would allow us to be among the few communities that have engaged in this planning with the NCDOT Division of Aviation. The applications and use cases for AAM include emergency services and public safety, such as medical transport, disaster response, and search and rescue, infrastructure and inspection, which includes utility and infrastructure inspections, environmental monitoring, construction monitoring, and airport inspections, logistics and cargo delivery, which includes middle mile and last mile delivery, rural access, and on-airport logistics, and passenger mobility, which includes urban air mobility, regional air mobility, and airport connections. What a localized AAM plan can do, it can help us identify priority corridors and use cases, map potential vertiport and landing locations, evaluate equity and community impact, align the MTP spot, or align the process with MTP spot and resilience planning, and position the region for future funding and grant opportunities. It also allows us to identify stakeholders and key players for future AAM efforts. The strategic benefits to the MPO include enhancing long-range planning, supporting economic development and innovation, creating a future project pipeline, and strengthening regional resilience planning. And position us for future AAM dollars, including grant opportunities that may arise. So the action that's required today is we're asking for your approval to proceed with an application to the NCDOT Division of Aviation Advanced Air Mobility Planning Program.
Yeah, and just to note, this kind of ties in with another item from your consent agenda. One of the letters of support for the Buncombe County EMS Safe Streets for All project was looking at using some of the advanced air mobility components as a way to deliver whole blood, especially to crash victims who may be in need of blood transfusions very quickly. And also with this grant, something that's somewhat unique is the MPO's federal funds are actually eligible for match. And so as part of that, we are asked to have a letter of commitment. And so if awarded, and if the board would like us to proceed with this application, MPO SCPG funds would be programmed as match, which would go before this board later. Questions?
I would just like to speak to it. I sit on the Board of Transportation Committee that has put this in its bailiwick. It reminds me a lot of, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, as we started the drone ideas. And now we have a whole range of uses that we frankly weren't even thinking about at the time we started down that road. This, for me, is really pretty exciting. My views on it are impacted largely by Helene. I mean, this gives opportunities. It's not a urban issue, and it's surprisingly got the urban, it's both urban and rural, its application. So I think, you know, again, if you look for a motion, I would strongly recommend we recommend the motion that is stated in our materials.
Second.
If I can read, I'll take this vote. I think it's a fantastic idea to get planning and board now or whenever.
And it'll put us out front,
Yes.
from some other places that just don't understand what the opportunities are. It's technology driven.
You are very correct that I think it's urban and rural. I got to say rural. That's the hardest word to say. Something we can all get from. Okay, roll call.
Asheville, Kim Roney.
Aye.
White Mountain, Archie Fertiller.
Aye.
DOT Division 13, Billy Clark. Oh, he's not. DOT Division 14, Chuck McGrady.
Aye.
Bowman County, Drew Ball.
Aye.
Dayton, Dr. Ralph Hamlet.
Aye.
Flat Rock, Emily Whitmire.
Aye.
Haywood County, Kevin Inslee.
Aye.
Henderson County, Jay Eagles.
Aye.
Henderson County, Sheila Franklin. Aye. Hendersonville, Jennifer Hensley.
Aye.
Madison County, Matt Wexel.
Aye.
Maggie Valley, Mike Eveland. Montreat, Tom Widmer.
Aye.
World Transit, David White.
Aye.
Biltmore Forest, Drew Stevens.
Aye.
Urban Transit, Susan Bean. Aye. Waynesville, Anthony Sutton.
Aye.
And Weaverville, Mark Endries.
Aye.
The ayes have it.
Thank you. That concludes the business section of our agenda. So we will move on to the informational section, which is Wind Law 5, Safety Zone.
Okay, so this item was requested by the Town of Woodson Board of Representatives, Mayor McAllister, to be added to our agenda. This is in follow-up to the two bicyclist fatalities on NC 251. Just a quick note there in Madison County, not Bowman County. My apologies. So this is something that has been brought up in public comment, is an idea of basically applying some of the safety zone concepts from schools and areas of road construction. In school zones, there's reduced speed limits as well as increased penalties for speeding. Similarly with roadway construction zones. And so the idea is to enable what's being proposed as bicycle safety zones. That would enable higher fines for stretches of road that are designated as bicycle safety zones, most likely areas with higher bicycle use. I think, with NC 251 in mind, that is, we know from data that it's an area with a lot of high bicyclist use, but with limited opportunities for interventions and additional changes to the road. And so this is a proposal to get this moved forward in the General Assembly. It's my understanding that this would need to be enabled by an act of the General Assembly in order to designate these bicycle safety zones. And the town of Woodman brought this up and discussed this in a recent meeting and passed a resolution in support of moving forward with Lenny's Law. But for today, we're primarily bringing this forward as information, both as something that's been proposed, as well as the fact that a member government has taken action to support this. I will just note what I noted to Mayor McAllister, which is, in general, the MPO does not really get involved with proposed legislation. There are restrictions on staff time because we are federally funded about what we can do to advance, advocate, or do anything seen as lobbying for legislation. However, I think with this request, we did want to make our members of government aware of the discussion and the action being taken by the town of Woodman. Are there any questions or comments?
To back off of that, I think it would be very difficult for this board to advocate for this in general, but I do believe it's a great idea that each of us can take back to our council and commissions to work the legislative impact, and I think it's very important. It's great work, but I think it's best to lobby politically, and I don't see this board being a political board. And I like it that way that we are on. I think that we can all advocate for this in our local government. Any other comments? People agree with that?
Absolutely. If I may,
So I think,
I have my hand up.
yes,
I just wanted to note that there's so many things that we can't do that are budget restrictions, limitations, but speaking up for the health and safety of our constituents and our neighbors is certainly something we could do within the collective, support of this body. Words are something like this is a symbol, but words are powerful. And so I move to recommend that we support this action.
as I always say, words have meaning as well, and have a weight. I think if we could go back to our local government and we amplify our voice by 30-fold by getting every single member of each council to agree to this, we have a lot more impact than the MPO. But
well, I think when you're speaking of resolutions in support of a particular law, that is very political. So I would agree with you that you can do a lot more impact by different municipalities and county commissioner.
I think this is very important. This is very important. I think we need to advocate for it, but in our political. So I think Council Member Rudy has a motion. Do we have?
This is just an informational item though, right?
Correct.
Okay.
But we are a board, so you can make a motion from an informational item, correct? No. Do we have a second?
I think I second it. This is
Archie Priscilla, second, moving forward. Roll call.
Asheville Kimbroni.
Aye.
Black Mountain Archie Portiller.
Aye.
DOT Division 14 Chuck McGrady.
No.
Buncombe County Drew Ball.
Aye.
Canton Dr. Ralph Hamlet. Emily Whitmire.
Aye.
Haywood County, Kevin Inslee. Henderson County, Jay Eagle.
Nay.
Henderson County, Sheila Franklin.
No.
Hendersonville, Jennifer Hensley.
No.
Madison County, Matt Wechsel.
No.
Maggie Valley, Mike Evelyn. Montreat, Tom Whitmer.
Actually, I have a question. Why are we voting on this if it's an informational item?
Robert rules that you can bring, since we're a body, you can pull up, you can request a motion at any time.
But you had a member leave once it was announced that the business portion of the meeting was over. He left.
Yeah, we have two others that have left as well.
So once we announce that the business meeting is over.
And yay, if they leave, that they weren't aware of the discussion. That's the reason I'm proposing that we wait after this. But
And that's why I'm voting no, frankly. I mean, I'm not sure.
Montreat votes no.
Okay.
Rural Transit, David White.
No.
Biltmore Forest, Drew Stevens.
Aye.
Urban Transit, Susan Bean.
Aye.
Waynesville, Anthony Sutton.
No.
And Weaverville, Mark Andrews.
No. We have, because those who left are counted automatically by Robert's rules as the affirmative, we have 9 yeses and we have 9 noes.
It fails on
It fails.
On 5 votes.
It fails.
We can discuss, bring this back. We can discuss.
Yeah, we can bring this back.
I think if you bring it back, you probably get the result. It's just awkward right now.
I would strongly suggest all the municipalities between now and the next meeting to come up with a resolution to present to their own boards and bring all those back to the council. I know I will bring a resolution to the town of Waynesville, which would make it a less of a political issue of all the municipalities' creeds.
Absolutely.
So if you need any advocacy or need me to come speak at your boards in favor, I will gladly do that.
Thank you. Okay. We'll plan to bring this back. Thank you, folks.
Next is regular updates, Division 13.
Division 13 updates, I'm trying to get it pulled up so I can see, but our project development updates, the list is largely unchanged from what we've been seeing for the last few months. A lot of bridge projects in the queue, tremendous number of projects over the next few years shown in project development currently. Moving to construction updates. Last week on the 4700 project on I-26, from exit number 36 to 38, it was taken from 2 lanes to 4 lanes. Also, exit 35 earthwork is continuing in that area around the parkway. Tree planting and vegetation establishment is underway, so things are moving forward there. Looking at 2513 AA and AB, the I-26, I-40 projects, phase 2 construction is underway with concrete paving scheduled in about 2 months. Sound wall installation and painting is ongoing, and the bridge for the new exit 44A is nearing completion. Also for 2513B and D, contractors working toward implementation of a change in the traffic configuration, working on the drilled piers along Riverside Drive and the former Crown Plaza property. Widening is ongoing in the median of I-26 for a traffic switch that is projected there. Also on Haywood Road, the contractor has finished about 90% of what we would call the flat work concrete work, the bulb outs and curb ramps and things on the Haywood Road project. And paving is scheduled for mid-July on that project. We also have a tremendous amount of resurfacing and pavement preservation happening all across the division, with several more contracts to start shortly. We urge folks to be aware of crews that could be in the road any time of day or night and those work zones that could be in place. I'm glad to take any questions on either of the updates.
I gotta tell you, 26, once you get it where it opens up, is fantastic. Traffic's slowing and it just, so I'm looking forward to the future.
Maybe it's a glimpse of what's to come, right?
I hope so. Any questions? Division 14, and I can bring to you bridges.
Yes, I think we've bashed the bridges enough. Let's see, we're going to do construction or... that's right. So it's the same projects you've been seeing for a while. Everybody knows about the bridges in Haywood County, or by Ford Construction in general. Thank you, MPO, for pushing out the notices of lane closures and such. And if you are headed that way, there are a few ramps at exit 31 that are closed, and also on 192374 at Russ Avenue, the westbound ramp, that's closed. Do what?
Exit 102.
Yeah. One thing to notice on the construction, well, I'll get to it in just a second. Sorry, just several things are nearing completion. The bridge over the Green River, that completion date was moved out 4 months. It is completely open. It's just establishing vegetation and a few punch list items. The bridge over Brickyard or Bolston Creek on Brickyard Road is complete, and also the one over Clear Creek on South Mills Road is complete. Project development, same projects you've been seeing for a while. That's why we're so excited about some funding and the next step. I did want to call attention to, in Henderson County, the Clear Creek Greenway that did let and was awarded, and the pre-construction meeting was last week or 2 weeks ago. So you'll be seeing construction on that soon. That brings me joy that we actually let our project.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Yep. That's it for Division 14. A reminder that these are on the MPO website. If y'all have any questions, contact Division 13, Division 14.
Thank you. Is Daniel on?
See him either.
He's here. Oh, he's here? Okay. I'm sorry, Daniel. Daniel,
I'll keep it quick. We started work on the next round of travel demand model updates, the first step of which is to conduct our household survey. We have selected a contractor and received a draft scope from them. We provided comments on the draft scope this week. So we're hoping to get that work started soon, and we'll probably have updates for y'all throughout that process as we reach out to the community and have kind of a very public phase. Other than that, the branch is still in the form of transition, so I'm hoping to have more exciting news as things settle down.
Thank you, Daniel. Any questions for Daniel? Next is subcommittee work group reports. And I will say we will have an opening on the prioritization subcommittee, so be thinking about joining, or maybe he wants to nominate.
Yeah, I won't go through everything. Daniel did note the regional travel survey. Just to note, that is the largest study that we have ever programmed. It does play a very important role in the travel demand model and traffic forecasting, and we are hoping to have that underway relatively soon. amongst our other special studies. So a few things, our PBAC, the Pedestrian Bicycle Advisory Committee, is currently holding a call for applications. That's due July 6th. Recommendations will come back to the PCC and board in August. We are planning our first meeting in September. Just as a reminder, there are 9 seats on this committee. Per our discussion on this, 5 are appointed by the MPO. The other 4 are appointed by county commissions. So counties, don't forget about your appointments. And if there's any coordination with our application process you would like, please let us know. Also, we have the PA survey that's open through July 22nd. That is used to inform our local input point considerations. So the results of that will be available for our next board meeting when we finalize our local input points. Just to note, we are one of 4 organizations that conducts this kind of survey prior to the assignment of local input points. We feel like that is when public input can be most impactful in this process. I'll add that we were the first MPO who started doing that. But please spread the word. Your municipal newsletters, we can always tell when they go out because we tend to see a spike in the number of responses. Please spread the word. In P5.0, we received more than 5,000 responses. So we want to get that kind of coverage. I will note Transylvania County had the most number of responses in that round. We can't let that happen, MPO folks. Let's go. On the legislative end, there is a new federal transportation bill that was introduced to the House. That's the Build America 250 Act. There's a lot of work to go. It's only been introduced and passed by the T&I committee. I'm sure at some point the name of this bill will turn into an acronym of some sort. But this is the most likely replacement at this point for the bipartisan infrastructure law, or the IIJA, which is set to expire at the end of September of this year. This is just an image from the Association of MPOs of where this bill needs to go from here, essentially making its way through the House, going to the Senate. There is a lot that needs to happen. One thing you'll see at the end is potential extension. I think the closer we get to September without this bill passing, the more likely an extension of the current federal law is going to be. And I will say that it was passed federal legislation that's been fairly common. A few major things to note. This bill has a major shift from discretionary to formula funding. That basically means that a lot of the grants where local governments or NCDOT applies to USDOT for funds and maybe gets awarded, maybe not, those discretionary funds are set to be reduced. With the bill as currently written, a lot more funding would be put into formula funds. Those are funds that automatically get distributed to states and some of those to different regions. So that is a pretty big shift, especially the bipartisan infrastructure law kind of did the opposite. I will just note, as a mid-sized MPO director, there were a whole lot of discretionary grants that were introduced in 2020, which was very exciting, but there were so many grants to the extent that I don't think our region could have pursued all of them. USDOT they started to consolidate some of those grants because it became so much to deal with on their end. But I do think one of the things that's important is making sure that there's funding accessible to local governments, not just state DOTs. And we are seeing that some of the funds that are accessible to local governments are potentially increasing with the bill as currently written. To note with that, some of that is in the bridge formula program, having more set aside for off-system bridges. Those are bridges that aren't part of the federal aid network, which almost the vast majority of those in our region are municipally maintained. A significant increase in SDBG, Surface Transportation Block Grants. Again, those are funds that get distributed to different regions, including our MPO. And a significant increase in Safe Streets for all funding, including changing the split to 10% match instead of 20. Believe it or not, I'm interested in MPO planning funds. There's a proposed change in the split there. That would be 10% local match instead of 20%. There's also the planning funds are actually set to have one of the bigger percentage increases in this bill. Just to note, it was one of the smallest for a long time. Just got to know that. There's also expanded eligibilities for the use of EL funds. I think one thing that we don't really talk about enough is in terms of project delivery, when you get a project funded, going into it knowing what you want and what is feasible is very important in terms of project delivery. Being able to do more of that, I think, would be a good idea. And eligible to apply for more federal programs. So make the MPO more eligible for different programs. There are a number of programs proposed to be eliminated in the current bill. Amongst them is the Carbon Reduction Program, which we do receive a small amount of funds from. The Active Transportation and Infrastructure Investment Program. That's a program geared towards regional trails, such as the Hellbender. The Low No Emissions Grant Program. That's primarily a transit grant program, and the National Electric Vehicle Infrastructure, or NEVI program. That is one of the kind of hallmarks of the bipartisan infrastructure law, but that would be proposed to be eliminated amongst several others. Other things to watch. One thing I still don't know if it's a good idea or a bad idea, to be honest, is some of the consolidated funding programs. So we're still waiting to see more information. On the highway side, it would allow state DOTs to combine the funding from several different programs into basically one giant pot of federal funds, and would allow them to use the funds for whatever is eligible in any of those programs. So on the one side, it could simplify things, it could shift some funds towards more programs that our region wants to prioritize, or it could not. We don't know. Transit, similar idea there. TAP changes, Transportation Alternatives Program. One thing that's been noted is that there was considerable concern that the TAP program would go away. It's not currently going away. But there is some language, that's actually some fairly old language, about allowing states to move those funds to other programs. So just to note, bike ped folks, that is something that the state of North Carolina used to do previously. 50% of the Transportation Alternatives Funds were flexed over toward roadside environmental programs. Rail funding, funding is not guaranteed with the bill, so it would be up to annual appropriations. And as part of the selection of new rail corridors, there's more of an emphasis on funding sustainability for those proposed corridors. Transit funding, an increase to 5307 funds, that's the urban transit formula funds that come to our region, and a major increase to 5339, that's primarily transit capital. but that is mostly because they're taking the funds from the low no emissions grant program and combining them into 5339. State updates. A big one to note, kind of being called the I-77 amendment. It has been in the news a little bit, so you may have heard. The Charlotte MPO voted to remove the I-77 toll project south of Charlotte from the tip of the SIP. So afterwards, an amendment was introduced that basically says, should an MPO or RPO vote to remove a project unilaterally, local governments that voted to remove the project would be required to reimburse NCDOT for pre-construction activities. There's also language about requiring the state to withhold POW bill funding from those municipalities. Introduced by Senator Sawyer, who represents Mecklenburg and Iredell County. Obviously, that's something to note there, MPO board members. My 2 cents on this is, on the one hand, I do think there's actually a conversation to be had about what is the point of no return. We've had a few conversations at this MPO about projects that maybe people really liked until they didn't, or there was some kind of change. And that's a question that's been brought up a lot in those conversations, is what is the point of no return when the MPO basically cannot take an action? And I don't think we've ever really come to a clear conclusion on that. There's been times where, a lot of the discussion has said, well, we've already done all of this, or we've already done all of that. But that doesn't necessarily mean that the discussion has stopped. I do think that's where the conversation. I will say at the same time, at the time of pre-construction activities, that's quite a time to make the point of no return. And I will just go a little bit out there and say, as an MPO director of a region with a lot of small governments, small local governments, one thing I worry about with this as it's currently written is that this might not impact some larger local governments as much as it would smaller local governments. If NCDOT were to say, if you vote to remove this project and you're going to have to refund us $200,000, that means something very different to large jurisdictions versus smaller jurisdictions. And if I were representing a smaller jurisdiction, if something like this were to go forward, I would think a lot before bringing my concerns.
But you said $200,000 is 25%.
We're serious about that.
Right. So just to note that, we'll see where that goes moving forward. Other bills of note, House Bill 1109 is looking to study the Strategic Transportation Investments Act. Senate Bill 952 is looking to repeal the cap on light rail funding. That was introduced back in P5 when Durham was looking at light rail projects. House Bill 1185, we're not doing no mow May, it was mandated no May. I would hate to be a latest graph. Senate Bill 999, expedited review for housing projects, and the state budget. I've heard they're working on that, and that may be in the just a few things to note. Before we end today, I do want to say that one of our board members informed us that this is his last meeting. With that, that is the Honorable Chuck McGrady. I've already given one speech for Chuck, so I didn't write another one. Sorry, Chuck. But I do want to note that this MPO, this region, would not be the same without the impact of Chuck McGrady. He's going to be modest and say I'm exaggerating things. Other people would say I'm not. Don't be so modest, Chuck. But the MPO would not be here if it weren't for the work of Chuck. The Augusta Trail, a lot of people have asked me, how can we replicate the magic of the Augusta Trail? Get Chuck McGrady to help out with the trail. To me, I sit in a lot of meetings that, people, I think, would be bored to tears in. But one thing that's been a repeated theme, especially with that project as well as some others, is some of the things that have happened wouldn't have happened without Chuck McGrady. I will say there is no Augusta Trail without Chuck McGrady. There is no one on this board who has called me on a Saturday morning while I'm making waffles for my kids and asked me detailed questions about project development and cost inflation. Chuck McGrady, Chuck, you dive deep into the weeds, and I think this MPO, this region, transportation planning in general is better because of it. So thank you so much.
I appreciate it. Yes, I have told the Speaker's office I will not accept an appointment. My term is, in theory, over June 30th. State law provides that until somebody's appointed, I continue to serve, and we've got a virtual meeting in July, so I'll be there. I've basically told my colleagues that I'm not driving to Raleigh anymore. And so my pitch has not been, I've tried to identify for the House people from in and around this area. The District 14 board member is in Graham County, a long way from here. And the District 13 member is Billy, and he's going to stay there. But it would be, given how important Buncombe County and Asheville are, it would be good to, Billy and I have worked really well together to try to represent the mountains and particularly the economic drivers of those two local governments are. And I'm really looking to, I'm hoping that we'll get an appointment that will sort of keep things in place in whatever way. The budget, I understand, will pass in July. At that point, they'll run an appointments bill. They're sort of on, they usually don't hit till June 30th. But they usually always hit July, August, and it looks like that. And this is my second tour of duty. I chaired this entity at some point. And I've enjoyed it. And anything I can do to help within limits, as long as it doesn't take me to Raleigh. I might be willing to work. I do know people, so I've actually, a lot of board members complain about their service on MPOs and RPOs. I don't. I actually think it's the better part of what I do. Thank you very much, and I've enjoyed my service again.
Thank you, Chuck. You have brought many moments of wisdom to this board, and I appreciate it very much. What I'm hearing is you don't want to drive to Raleigh. You
do interpret it right.
Well, I would love to publicly thank Chuck and the width and breadth of his knowledge base that I've been able to glean from him over many years, and the support that I've always felt, not only professionally but personally, just runs deep. And so I can't imagine being on the board without a Chuck McGrady, but I know he's always a phone call away. So I really appreciate everything he's done for our region, our area. And I know that even though he may not be on the board, that support will continue. And so he is irreplaceable.
I hope he's not looking to work any less, because I've already sent him a couple of emails asking questions, so he's still going to be working.
I'm still failing retirement.
If anybody deserves it, though, it's definitely you.
Absolutely, but you failed at this before.
I'm looking to get it incomplete. An F.
Thank you. If I'd done that, we would actually. The other announcements?
That's it from us. No,
Chairman, last month, May 6th through 8th, I think it was, the North Carolina Association of MPO conference was held in Asheville. Our MPO staff hosted that, and it went off just phenomenally well. So well done. TAC was well represented. Councilmember Roney, Mayor Pro Tem Hensley, and Chairperson Sutton gave some great opening ceremony welcome messages, and William High, TCC Chair, was a moderator of the opening forum. All well done. So way to go. Thank you
so much, Steve. And thank you to the board members that helped make it a great event.
Well, yeah, thanks to the staff.
The staff is
You guys
incredible.
worked your tails off.
Thank you, and we're glad it's over.
There is no meeting in July.
No meeting in July, barring special requests. Don't get any ideal. We plan to meet again in August. I believe the next board meeting is August 20th.
Is there any additional public comment? I'm thinking not, since it's Joel's also one page. Nope. Hearing none, we will adjourn.
Thank you, folks.